My name is Sven Soylund and I work for Nordic Energy Research. And we're very pleased to host this event on our Energy Day on Sahara Forest Project. I think you will find the presentation very intriguing and very uplifting in this time of mixed emotions. So with these words, I'll pass on to Kjetil Stake, who will run us through the program today.
Thank you very much, Sven. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, friends, welcome to this side event on realizing the Sahara Forest Project in Jordan. The Sahara Forest Project, to put it very simply, is about producing food, water and energy in desert areas. 7 years ago, we presented the concept for the first time at the climate negotiations in Copenhagen. Then in 2012, we had built our pilot facility for Doha. So when the climate negotiations took place there, we could show the delegates that the solutions are ready, they're available, they are deployable. Then, following up on the Paris Agreement, there is now a need to remind everyone that solutions are also available today for allowing for carbon negative solutions. Solutions that actually help us to reach the below 2 degrees target. We need those solutions in order to meet those ambitions, and those solutions are really available where we can draw more CO2 out of the atmosphere than we put out. So you can think that we could eat produce from Sahara Forest Project facility and at the same time contributing to the 1.5 target. Today we will first hear from our distinguished speakers, all partners in helping us realizing the project in Jordan. Then, following up from the interventions from the speakers, we will take questions from the floor. And without further ado, I would like to invite the CEO of the Sahara Forest Project, Joachim Hauge, to take the floor. He will give us a bit of background from the Sahara Forest Project and give you the latest developments that we are so excited about. So please, Joachim, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very happy to be here with you today to tell you a little bit about the Sahara Forest Project and some exciting new developments. Now, we are at the COP, so we will see a lot of pictures of the globe. I think this is a pretty good picture of the globe. It's the Earth as a pie chart. It's all the areas. It's a framework for a growing population towards more than 9 billion people. And the UN, they say that we need to increase our food production with 60–70% by 2050. It's going to be pretty tough to do that within this traditional piece of the pie chart. And as we all know, it's not the only challenge. These are some key megatrends going forward to 2050. And if we are going to increase our food production with 60 or 70%, how are we going to do that without having significant negative effects on energy consumption, on CO2 emissions, on water scarcity, or on the desertification process that currently goes 30 times faster than ever before in human history? These challenges, they are intertwined. And I think, and we in the Sahara Forest Project think, that the solutions needs to be integrated. And with more integrated solutions, we are convinced that some of these trends perhaps could be turned. Our approach is an approach of a restorative growth, revegetation and green jobs through profitable production of food, biofuels, water and energy. Now, that is a pretty ambitious idea. But I believe that that is actually an idea with the potential to become reality. And I'll show you a bit of why I believe that. The Sahara Forest Project, it consists of several technologies working in synergy. You have 3 key technologies. One is seawater-cooled greenhouses. where you utilize seawater to cool and produce water so that you can grow traditional greenhouse produce in a desert. In the front of these greenhouses, you have thick cardboard walls. Salt water runs over these cardboard walls with small holes in them, and the desert wind hits this wall, comes into the greenhouse. Two things happen. One is that small freshwater droplets will evaporate out of the salt water, and the other is that this is an energy requiring process, so the air also becomes cooler. So you get cooler and more humid air inside the greenhouse, and this humidity you can also utilize to produce additional water. Now, when you do this for a while, the water of course will become salter and not as efficient. You could take it back to the sea, or you can utilize this higher brine outside as well, in similar structure, evaporative structures, so that you, together with good soil reclamation techniques, utilizing residue nutrients, produce vegetation also outside in the desert. And the third core component here is solar energy. It can be traditional PV panels or concentrated solar power. Now, the idea behind this is that we want to use the waste stream from each of these technologies as a resource for the next. So take concentrated solar power, great technology, but it's more efficient if you have water cooling. Deserts, they have a lot of sunlight, but not as much fresh water. So we can use the greenhouses to provide cooling with the salt water, while the waste heat from the concentrated solar power facility can be used for more water production in the greenhouses. The vegetation outside, of course, benefits from the water, but that helps arresting dust in the air so that more sunlight reaches the mirrors and stabilize ground conditions. Now, with such a saltwater infrastructure in the desert, you can then start to add on technologies, salt production, mariculture. You can utilize emissions from a traditional desalination facility as a starting point for the greenhouses. But at this point, it's important to ask, why are all these technologies important? Why do they matter? Well, they matter because they make a system where we take what we have enough of: sand, CO2, sunlight, and seawater to produce what we need more of: renewable energy, food, and fresh water. Now, of course, that's a great idea, but what really matters is if we can turn this idea into reality. We realized quite early on that we would need good partners to make that happen. And we went to two of the biggest fertilizer companies in the world, Yara International and Kafco, in 2012. And in March 2012, we announced, together with the Norwegian and Qatari prime ministers, that we were going to build the first pilot facility of the Sahara Forest project. And we were quite encouraged at that time, so we said, we are going to do that by the end of this year. We are going to show that this is not science fiction, it can be done here and now. And that was a tough call, putting all these technologies together for the first time on the hot Qatari sun. But in November 2012, we reached that defining moment in our history where our idea had turned into reality. I'll give you a quick tour. We had the first concentrated power facility in Qatar. We had the desalination production for fresh water powered by the solar power. We had outdoor growing zones. You can see thriving crop of barley. You can see different desert plants. We have, of course, had the saltwater cooled greenhouses producing cucumbers. And we built the first integrated facility for cultivation of microalgae in Qatar. Now, the results that came out of this was quite interesting. That greenhouse, that pilot greenhouse in Qatar, produced at levels that are comparable to the most advanced greenhouse operations in Europe. And it did so with half the freshwater consumption of traditional greenhouse in the region. It was also the first greenhouse in Qatar to be able to produce at commercial levels through the year. We proved that very important point, that we could deliver the cooling for the concentrated salt power facility without cooling towers, without freshwater, using the saltwater instead. And we cultivated about 19 different plants and crops outside in the desert throughout the year. Now, what does that mean? Qatar is not the biggest country in the world, but it imports more than 90% of all its vegetables. If you build 8 hectares of these greenhouses, you supply all the imports of cucumbers to Qatar. And if you go a bit bigger, if you go 60 hectares, you take all the cucumbers, all the tomatoes, all the aubergines, and all the peppers. You do that with sunlight and seawater while storing CO2 into new vegetation in a desert. So with these results, we had to go on. So we have initiated business development in a number of new countries. And today we are here to talk to you about Jordan. We are now going to build a new facility, 3 times larger, size of 4 football fields. We have a consortium of funders, where Norway and the EU are key funders for this facility. It's going to consist of several seawater-cooled greenhouses. It's going to have a PV park, outdoor revegetation zones, salt production facilities, and R&D facilities and training facilities, so we also can communicate this kind of agriculture to farmers in Jordan. A couple of weeks ago, I was in Jordan together with the Norwegian ambassador and the EU ambassador, planting that first symbolic tree in Aqaba. And today, as we sit here and speak, the first workers have put a shovel in the ground and are starting the construction of this facility in Aqaba. In May 2017, this will become operational. And in the first year, we are thinking that it will produce around 120,000 kilos of vegetables. It's been a fantastic journey, taking the Sahara Forest project from this perhaps wild idea into the reality you see here today. This has just been the start of our journey. With the help of our good partners and the funding from Norway and the EU, we are going to go a step further. And I think it's going to be tough. But today, I'm more convinced than ever that this is actually can be done. We can realize a restorative growth. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Joachim. Very exciting. Thank you. Now, Norway is not a country that is famous for its deserts. Yet the next speaker is a man that sees the importance in saving the Arctic in the desert. Everyone please welcome the Norwegian Minister for Climate and Environment, His Excellency Mr. Vidar Helgeson. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, if we are to make the Sustainable Development Goals come true, and if we are to make the Paris Agreement come true, we do indeed need new food solutions, new water solutions, new energy solutions. And that's why I'm very happy to have the opportunity to be here today at the launch of the next step in the exciting Sahara Forest project. There are 2 things that I'd like to focus on. One is something that we have a lot of, and that's land. And then another thing that we need more of, and that's innovation. We have a lot of land, but we need to make better use of land globally if we are to turn Agenda 2030 into a reality. Land matters for climate. The land use sector represents about 25% of global emissions. By saying that, I'm also saying that land use represents a great part of the potential solution to climate change. We need more climate-smart land management. Through the work that Norway has been doing over 8 years with our Rainforest Initiative, we have learned a very clear lesson that we need more land, we need all land to be productive. It's the only way to ensure that we can achieve the food needs of the world and at the same time ensure sustainability in terms of development and in terms of the climate. And that's where I come to innovation. If we are to succeed in that, we really need innovative souls and innovative action. And this is where the Sahara Forest Project is a great example, holding groundbreaking potential. And that's why Norway is also eager to support this. If we are to have innovation, we need to be willing to not only talk innovation up, we need also to put our money where our mouth is in ways that can at times be a bit risky. We don't know for sure if this is going to be a great success, if the potential will really be unleashed. But we do know that the results so far are encouraging and that it's well worth going a further step. And that's why today Norway is announcing support for the new Sahara Forest Project site in Jordan by up to 5.6 million Norwegian kroner. What we hope to see from this is an arid desert landscape transformed into a food-producing, carbon-storing, jobs-creating, income-generating landscape. If that will indeed be what we see, and if that can later be scaled up, the impact can be really transformational. The transformational impact has to start somewhere, and that's where I think what we've seen in Qatar has been promising. The plans that has been working, that the SFP has been working very hard on for a long time, makes us strong believers in this opportunity and strong supporters of the next phase. I'd also like to say that we're very pleased that the project and the endeavor now will be an open source endeavor. The experience that we get, the methodologies applied, will be available to all, so that innovation can spring also from people learning from what is going on. So I'd like just to say that we are very pleased to be here today. We're very pleased that, as I understand today, the first action is being taken in Jordan. And I'd like to congratulate you on that achievement and wish you every success in the coming months and years. We look forward to being a partner in this important endeavor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister, for those kind words. 6 years ago, we were invited to Jordan by His Majesty King Abdullah II of Jordan. We were excited then and still excited today from actually putting the shovel in the ground. Since then, we have had great support from the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources in Jordan. And today I'm pleased to welcome to the floor, on behalf of the Ministry, Mr. Rasmi Hamse. Please, the floor is yours.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for this invitation, and we are proud of cooperation with the Norwegians and the European Union and other friends and stakeholders of announcing this important project in Jordan. As you know, Jordan is a country surrounded by, let's say now, a crisis. But the hopes is great, and we have big hopes in Jordan of making, our status into an opportunities. This is exactly what type of opportunities that we are looking forward. And Jordan, as you know, is a unique country and a unique environment for the solar investment and wind investment in general, renewable energy projects and energy efficiency projects in Jordan now is one of the main big titles, and we have now in Jordan like a dream of really making all the difficulties there into opportunities, plans of renewable energy and investing our resources actually now in the process to be implemented. Now I think what we are talking about is that Jordan plans for renewable energy to be implemented by 2018 is to implement solar and wind project into our grid into 1,300 mega. And this is a great project, this is great promising. And when we're talking about our deserts, really we are looking for it as an opportunity. And thank you for this. Thank you for this great project. I know it's a pilot project, but the impact of this project will be referred to not just Jordanian, but also other countries in the region. The UN goals, sustainability goals, it's reflecting not just energy, it's reflecting all of its concerns for a human being. And we know food, water, and energy is the main elements for for the human being and our country history. So we are looking in Jordan here to transfer the knowledge of this project to our local community. I'm managing the fund related with renewable energy in Jordan, Jordan Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency Fund. And we are working with local communities in all around Jordan and with local societies as well. This project would be a great opportunity, to cooperate with in order to transfer the knowledge into local communities and to make actually, this technology available for maybe smaller or other pilots in different areas around the deserts in Jordan. So we'd like to thank you so much for this. Thank you for European Union and other supporters. Thank you for the Norwegian government. Thank you for you as a team for working on this. And what I can say that we'll be happy at the government of Jordan to support you in order to make this project through. And we are glad that you started already with this. And again, we are happy that you chose actually this moment at the COP22 to announce about this important project. Jordan is which is in the main of your interest. Thank you so much, and thank you for your continuous support to Jordan and Jordanian Fund. Thank you.
And thank you. It truly is a great partnership to look at the deserts as the opportunity that it really is. Now, a part of this team is also the European Union. We are very proud to have the European Union as part of the work that we do in Jordan and to develop this launch station and really showcase the exciting opportunities that we can develop in Jordan and also as a showcase for the wider region. So now I would like to welcome the representative from the European Commission, from DG Climate and Action, Mr. Jerome Monsi. The floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everybody. Firstly, I'd just like to thank the organizers for the invitation. Unfortunately, Commissioner Cañete had a clash in schedule and couldn't make it, but sends his apologies. I have to say this is a really very, very interesting and innovative project. 5 years ago at my first COP, I was in Doha, and they had a pavilion where they showed different technologies and different things, and I'd seen this. And I looked at it, and I have to say it was quite astounding at the time. I'm somebody who has an agriculture background, so I was looking at this, and it seemed to really, I thought it was very clever at the time. Little did I know that 5 years later that I'd be sitting down here and speaking to you about this, but I think the European Union is very, very happy to be partners on a project like this. Because last year in Paris, we had the Paris Agreement. The Paris Agreement was quite an achievement. A lot of hard work went into it, and it set us on a roadmap, hopefully, towards where we can address climate change and other issues. But nevertheless, the challenges are great. The IPCC reports, especially the fifth assessment report, shows us just how big those challenges are. To keep below 2 degrees, to head towards 1.5 degrees, we need a lot of action. And also what's quite serious is that the impacts of climate change, which are felt at the moment, are affecting the poorest of the poor, the ones who've done the least. And when you deal with areas of the world, particularly the desert regions of the area, are areas that are suffered degraded lands, those are the areas that are really suffering. And some of the connections we have that have been made to some of the crisis around the region have been done to issues of food security, has been linked back along. The Paris Agreement thankfully made the link to food security. It's referenced in the Paris Agreement. It's referenced in the convention itself. The importance of food security is not threatened. This project, I find, is really, really very clever, because normally when we talk about food, we have a clash between different things. So sometimes we have a clash with climate, sometimes we have a clash with water, sometimes we have a clash with energy. This is very interesting, and it takes potential clashes and it makes an opportunity. Right? In particular, in those areas of the world where you have potentially some of the lowest food security, you can turn that into an opportunity. The production figures there for Qatar in relatively small areas are quite impressive. But particularly, I think, for rural development, we also have an urbanization issue around the world. There's a bigger move towards the cities. Potentially things that can keep people, give them opportunities, provide a local food supply. These things are all very, very positive. And also in the sequestration of carbon, to try go from an area where we have areas of the world which are losing carbon through desertification, to potentially turning that around. Because all the pathways that we have, we will need to turn what our previous speaker from Norway said, 24% of global emissions come from the land use sector. The different pathways mean we have to go to negative emissions with land. We will have to try harness the sequestration potential. And we have to produce things better. We will have to have resource efficiency. In the European Union, we have a big discussion on circular economy. We also have a lot of things on investments in research to meet these challenges. And this innovative ideas, this is the type of thinking we need. We need to think outside the box. We need to turn challenges into opportunities. So, as I say, from an agriculture background, I'm coming from Ireland, an area that doesn't necessarily have water stresses, but nevertheless, I see this as being very, 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 very clever, because as we move on in the world, we will have to try to work on those areas, because we have a limited area. And what has been producing food in the world so far has been largely due to an expansion in areas. So we've had an expansion into rainforest, deforestation. We will now have to have sustainable intensification where we use what we have better. And this type of project, and hopefully can be made a success and scaled out, turns an area which would formerly be ignored for food production into potentially an asset in that. So I think it's excellent. I think it's the innovative aspect, I think, that from a European Union perspective that particularly catches the eye. Our commissioner is from Spain, of which they also have issues in the south of Spain. So this is also of interest to the commissioner. So while I don't want to repeat everything that has been said before, the Doha experience there caught my eye. The presentation earlier in this event showed just the potential of this. And like all new technologies, there will be challenges. But I think we have to remember, some time ago we put the man on the moon. Recently, part of the European Space Agency, we put a probe on a comet millions of miles away, which is a remarkable achievement. So technology has to be part of our solution moving forward. We have to be innovative, and partners such as Jordan's a country to take this on board and work, and also other donors to work. That's what's needed. We have to think outside the box. We have to take some risks, and we have to learn. But I think one very, very important aspect, which I think is worth stressing, is that this is the open source aspect of this, that this technology, this will be shared. So that's one thing we hear in the negotiations. We need to share technology. We need to do that to empower, and I think that's a very strong selling point. So overall, personally, I'm very impressed. I know the Commissioner, and within the Commission, we're always looking for new things. There's always a temptation to relabel things, to do things, and we need to think outside the box. So thank you very much for the opportunity to speak here. I think it's a great idea, and hopefully in future COPs we'll hear more and more of the positive stories of this project. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and also for that space analogy there. So someone said, We choose to go to the moon and back not because it is easy, but because it is hard. And I think, yeah, it's part of the mission we're on. That being said, I think the partners here today, it's a strong alliance to make that possible. And I also would like to thank again the Norwegian government with Mr. Helgeson for today announcing on stage today the new committed funding of 5.6 million Norwegian NOK, approximately 600,000 euro. That is crucial and critical for allowing us now to showcase this to you. We are excited to see when summer comes, when the end of spring is there, that we can actually have a real taste of this success in terms of tomatoes, cucumbers, or what it may be. Now, I would like to turn the attention around to the audience and open up for questions from the audience. I would like to invite the four speakers on stage just to stand here in a nice line here on stage. And while you think about your questions, I'd like to kick off a question to Mr. Helgeson. You just arrived in Marrakesh. What role do you see that private initiatives and private solutions can play in the negotiations that are taking place? You will have a key role now in negotiations. What space do you think private initiatives can take in that sphere?
Well, to start with, I think Paris wouldn't have happened if it weren't also for what we saw from the private sector. There's a lot of... we often say that Paris changes a lot, and that's true. But there were a lot of changes underway that also led to Paris. And one of those changes was that business, investors, technology companies saw the need and the opportunities in finding new solutions that will enable us to tackle climate change. And now that we have Paris, now that we really need to make Paris work, we need to uphold the integrity of the Paris Agreement going forward, then we need even more of that constructive interplay between commercial environments, investment communities, technological clusters, and politics. Both because we can be inspired as politicians, we can see opportunities, but also because if we are to have NDCs implemented throughout the world, we need to share. We need to share technologies, we need to disseminate and distribute and make sure that new solutions are not only invented, but that they can actually be applied in more places. So that fruitful interaction is going to be just ever more critical.
Thank you very much. Those words are an inspiration to the politicians. I think those are good words. Anyone raise your hand? There's the lady in front here. Please state your name and your affiliation and your question.
Hi, I'm Atia. I'm with American University. I acknowledge that this project has a lot of really great benefits, and I'm really looking forward to the successes. But I'm wondering, with the acknowledgement that there's a lot of workforce development projects that need to occur in Jordan with the surrounding issues around the country, I'm wondering how technical training centers will be provided with the tools and the trainings that the people who really need the jobs the most in Jordan are being able to access these sorts of jobs.
Yes, thank you. The representative from the European Commission would like to answer first, and perhaps Joachim, and also a representative from Jordan.
I think that there's a body that's part of the climate discussions called the CTCN. It's the climate technology, it's a network of where countries have focal points. And what happens is it's like a reservoir of knowledge. So countries can make a request that they would need assistance in a particular area. So it could be in renewable energy, it could be in agriculture, it could be whatever. They make a request to the CTCN, and if they get enough demand, the CTCN then sees how they can meet such a demand. So a technology like this, if it's open source, that information could be provided to such a body, or a presentation could be made within that, and bodies can express their need for support in particular areas. So within the current climate change framework, there is that body. In this particular instance, I think could help.
Yes, actually, yeah, we have now in southern Jordan, within the same area that you are going to implement your project in Aqaba area, many agricultural projects actually. There is a huge and maybe 10,000 of hectares, but it's all in water, okay, in a traditional way. This is why I think this new technology, it could really help and support and give innovative ideas for all the farmers who are already working there, so they can use it and utilize it. The training side is very, very important, and the people there already they are working, they are farmers, so it's very easy to transfer the knowledge for them and the skills in order to start to utilize the new technology. I can see the benefits actually, and 5-6 months is not long time, and we as His Excellency mentioned, and now we need to turn out, talking about politics and about technology in order to make it available for everyone and for local people around the world, mainly the developing countries. And when His Excellency mentioned now about dialogue, discussions here, what difference between Paris and Marrakesh now, we are talking about designing action plans, real action plans, not discussions around tables, not discussions between politics. We are talking about, making, all the dreams that built around Paris Agreement really reality for people. I'm committed from the third world that, okay, we will cooperate about NDCs and we will decrease, we will help, our environment and the climate change issues, but how we can do that? So until now, we need really to convert all the, let's say, policies and big titles into a real action plans, and hopefully Marrakesh will do that.
Thank you. Joachim, would you like to comment as well?
I'll just add a couple of points here, because what you address is really important. I think knowledge transfer, it's key, and I think it's aspects that has made many technologies fail in establishing themselves, for instance, in countries in the Middle East. If you really need to focus on creating local value. So for us, it's good business sense with knowledge transfer, because that's not a one-way process. It's a two-way process. If we're going to cultivate outside areas, we need that knowledge also from the Jordanian farmers, from the Jordanian academic community. So for more than a year now, we have had a European top-notch farmer, greenhouse expert, going around to farms in Jordan just to learn, and vice versa, to offer advice. And it's a core component of this launch station to then invite Jordanian farmers to come and see how we do it and have a dialogue on how we can improve things.
Thank you very much. We have the time for one last question from the audience. Anyone feel the need to ask a question? Well,
just final, I would like to add just final words that Jordan Renewable Energy and the Energy Efficiency Fund now supporting the farmers in the desert area with the renewable energy, PV, in order to be the source for their water pumps. So also this is on this line with this project, and we are cooperating, and there is a big support from the European Union regarding this project. Okay.
Great. Well, thank you very much. A big round of applause to the speakers. And we will now have a little group photo on stage. I would also like to thank the audience here today. It's been great to see so many of you here, and hope to see you in Jordan. Thank you very much.
Closer together, please. Okay, thank you very much. It's a beauty.